ICP is a layer 1 blockchain, which is what I would say is unlike any other blockchain in existence. It's a blockchain which can essentially host fully end-to-end applications completely on-chain.
When everything is on-chain, that can be very expensive, especially when you have smart contracts that have to execute and do the work.
Lots of smart cryptographers, researchers have been spending years kind of building these kind of crypto primitives. You can just send Bitcoin directly to ICP without any bridge, without any intermediary.
What does the crypto space look like in the next, let's say 3 years, 3 to 5 years? Which layer ones are left? How many do you actually need?
Interoperability would be key requirement. Crypto and AI are kind of meant for each other.
As the Internet of Things expands and your normal devices are going to have to interact or even transact value across networks, you're going to need some kind of infrastructure to assist with that.
We think Web3 is going to play a major role in the AI space. I believe we will see pretty healthy bull run this time around.
So I'm joined today by Lomesh Dutta, who is the VP of Growth at Definity. Welcome to the channel, Lomesh.
Thank you, Tahir. It's a pleasure being here, and thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome. So start off by telling us, what is Definity and the ICP?
So Definity is a major contributor to the Internet Computer Protocol, or in short form, ICP. So ICP is a layer 1 blockchain, which is what I would say is unlike any other blockchain in existence. I'm sure everyone says something similar when you talk to the layer 1s, but in our what we do is essentially it's a blockchain which can essentially host fully end-to-end applications completely on chain. So if you think of like running an entire game or a social network, all of that lives on the blockchain. All the user data, all the images, like content, tokens, what have you, everything is fully on chain. So that's the difference on what ICP is.
Okay, so everything is on chain. So from my understanding, when everything is on chain, that can be very expensive, especially when you have smart contracts that have to execute and do the work. How does Definity handle high transaction costs then if everything is on chain?
Yeah, so I think the way it works is like if you think about like blockchains like Ethereum, Solana, and all of this, right? So the idea is that you have a single monolithic layer which essentially has same set of data is replicated hundreds of thousands of times. In ICP, the way we solve it is through horizontal scaling. So we have these concept of subnets. So think of them as shards, where your application could be hosted only on a subset of nodes. And you can essentially deploy, for example, if you have a social network that could be living on a 13 node subnet. If you have a high security requirement, let's say if you are hosting Bitcoin, maybe it might require like a few more machines, say in a 40 node subnet and so on. So, and the idea is that if you can make all of these different subnets or shards completely interoperable, so the idea is like one application on one subnet can very seamlessly interoperate with an application on any other subnet, then you basically can scale infinitely. So that's the general idea on why on ICP you can have like lower cost and so on, is because you only need to have like data which is replicated a few times. A few more important points to understand here is that all the nodes of ICP are also very high performant server grade machines. So kind of what you would see on Google Cloud or Amazon kind of like places. And then all of the nodes are also hosted in data centers, which are independently operated and run by like different people. So what that does is like it ensures very high availability. So maybe significantly high uptime than a traditional in-garage node. It also ensures very high bandwidth. So the idea is like you can expect a very high, let's say X gigabytes per second kind of a performance and a throughput. And then you can also ensure that like these cluster of machines are what runs an application which is super performant. So that's why I think ICP can do that.
So I think that the first question that I'd have in all of this is that we know that Bitcoin has its place in the world as digital gold. Then we've got the rest, which are like supercomputers where you can run applications on it. So Ethereum, Solana. How do you attract talent to come to ICP instead of Ethereum or Solana? How do you get people interested in this layer 1 as opposed to those? Because those are very hyped up. Solana's kind of taken a lot of talent. How do you compete with them?
Yeah, actually, it's a very different kind of a chain. That I mean, for example, let me give you. So you mentioned Bitcoin, of course, is like digital gold. Rest of the chains like Ethereum, Solana, like all these other layer ones and so on, they solve one specific problem. So the idea is like you essentially have tokens on the chain, and the idea is that you like, and imagine if we have very simple things like NFTs, it's just a URL of NFT that lives on the chain, the metadata itself. But the no blockchain typically can store any of this information or data, right? So it probably takes hundreds of thousands of dollars just to store a single phone photo on Ethereum. I'm sure it takes thousands of dollars on Solana. So how can you imagine running an application where the cost of storing a simple phone photo is like hundreds of thousands of dollars? So this concept of that you are running applications on chain is not true. So in the world of Ethereum, Solana, and so on. So what we say is like think of ICP as a complete replacement of traditional IT like Google Cloud or Amazon, and what you are building on ICP is like a fully end-to-end, completely decentralized experience. If you want to build an application which is not only about tokens, but you want to build the entire thing fully on chain, which can be governed by the community, that's where you come to ICP. And we have like tons and tons of like developers. I mean, if you look at any reports, ICP is usually amongst the top in terms of like the developer activity, and it's all because of this um, completely vision of being a true world computer where you can host end-to-end applications and services. That's really the general idea.
Okay, I like that idea. Why don't we talk about then what kind of projects, for instance, are building on ICP where this end-to-end model is actually coming to light?
Yeah, so I can give you like a few broad categories so to kind of put things in perspective. So like one we call as like open internet services. So the idea is, let's say, let's take an example. Say if you're trying to build a simple social network or a chat application. So one of the applications we have is called Open Chat, and the idea is like it's like in lots of ways is similar to what you would call as like a Facebook Messenger or a WhatsApp and so on, uh, but it works very differently. In case of OpenChat, everything that you do is fully on chain. Any message that you send, if you like something, if you forward a message, all of that is a smart contract interaction, and it's kind of running fully on chain. Now, what's the advantage, right? So the idea is that this application, this OpenChat, is not governed by any founders, CEOs, and so on. I mean, there were people who obviously created that initially, but then they decentralized the application, and now it's run completely by a DAO. So if you hold, as an example, one token of OpenChat, you can. It's everything is open source. You can write a piece of code and say, I would like to change the like theme of this application from dark mode to light mode, and you can write the code and just like submit a proposal. If the DAO approves it, the application changes. There's nobody outside of the DAO that's taking decision, and this entire thing happens all on chain. So the DAO can completely change the behavior of the application, update the application without involving any offline entity. So that's the idea. So it's a completely community driven application. So again, this is one example. Then we have lots and lots of projects which are leveraging what we call as chain fusion. So ICP also very seamlessly interoperates with other blockchains. So we have an ability to read and write on different blockchains. Um, so first we did an integration with Bitcoin. Um, ICP has access to all of the UTXOs, the unspent transaction output, or all the transaction data of Bitcoin. Think of it that way, and it can also create signatures on other chains. So what I mean is that ICP can you can just send Bitcoin directly to ICP without any bridge, without any intermediary. It can hold that for you. It can allow you to transfer that to someone else
Wait, when you
without
say hold that for you, what do you mean?
you basically simply say, here's my ICP smart contract, and you can just it will have a Bitcoin address. Each of the ICP smart contract can have a Bitcoin address where you can just send Bitcoin. No wrapping, no wrap BTC, anything like that. it can hold the Bitcoin natively for you in the smart contract. So as a user, you can not only hold Bitcoin, Ethereum, but very soon Solana and other assets completely in smart contracts on ICP.
Okay. So in your view, then, what does the crypto space look like in the next, let's say, 3 years, 3 to 5 years? Which layer ones are left? How many do you actually need?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you think about, like, there are lots of like different theses that people are trying to build towards. One of them is like um, vertical scaling. So what Solana is trying to say is like, okay, I'm going to build a chain, which is all the world needs is one chain, and then everyone will transact on that chain, and they're trying to increase what's the transactions per second. But it's still all about managing and tokens in a database, right? It's all about,
Yeah.
I mean, having different tokens and so on. Then you have these other chains, like for example, Ethereum is saying, okay, I'm going to scale it, but slightly differently. I have this roll-up model where you're going to have not just one chain, but I mean, the base layer is the same, but we're going to have these other roll-ups like Polygon and Arbitrum, Optimism, and so on, and that's how we're going to scale. But it's still again all about the total tokens we manage. Um, we feel that there will be multiple chains even in the future. Bitcoin is not going to go away. Probably there will be the likes of Ethereum and Solana or other emerging players. So one of the key things that the world would need is like an ability to interoperate between all of these silo blockchains. So think about it, right? So what is a blockchain? Blockchain is a bunch of computers that are all interconnected with each other. So the Solana computers doesn't necessarily know how to talk to the Ethereum computers and the Bitcoin ones, Bitcoin is machine. So how do you connect them, right? So there's no way. That's why people use these central intermediaries called bridges, where they say, if you want to make a transaction of Solana to bridge over to Ethereum, you need someone intermediary that will basically say, okay, give this to me, and I'm going to basically create another token on this behalf and so on. So in
Mm.
different blockchains will stay, interoperability will be required, but these bridges and all these businesses like shady business. That's not really what
Bridges are not fun. You never know if you sending it, if it's going to get hacked from the other side, if it's going to get lost. It's just
and most of the money in the crypto space has been lost in that, right? I mean, that's one. So
yeah,
one piece is like there will be many
like
chains.
notorious.
Interoperability would be key requirement. The second is like if you think about like what are the key trends in technology today. So AI is going to play a major role. So I mean, and crypto and AI are kind of, I mean, meant for each other, right? So imagine like all of this AI agents like, talking to each other and trying to make transactions with each other and on a Visa network. That's not going to happen. It's has to be crypto rails that would be powering the entire line thing. Also, crypto can solve for, I mean, these AI LLM models and so on. They have no verifiability today. Whatever goes as an input data, you have no clue if that's really going to be um, like if it has been fed with the right data and it's going to like produce the right output to you. So, and just give you an example, right? So, imagine you have you're talking about like some school kids, they get kind of um, I mean bullied at school, come back home and say, oh, hey LLM, I'm not feeling well, and basically here are it spits out, here are the 7 ways to hurt yourself, right? So this kind of thing is possible. We are trusting ChatGPT is going to do a fine job, Google is going to do a fine job, but like with all of these different LLMs that are coming in, we don't know when that's going to start to break, right? So these
Mm.
kind of things lead to, and crypto or blockchain is really a way in which you can have verifiability. You say, what was the data that went in? What's the output? And you can really track all the way what's the provenance and why was a certain response generated. So these are the kind of things that blockchains can solve, and we think Web3 is going to play a major role in the AI space as well.
Yeah, definitely. Especially as the Internet of Things expands, and your normal devices are going to have to interact or even transact value across networks. You're going to need some kind of infrastructure to assist with that. How is ICP specifically positioning themselves to take advantage of that shift?
Yeah, so I think on our side, so like on the first layer, we have basically built this what we call as chain fusion. It's essentially the interoperability layer amongst different chains. So we've taken a very different approach. We said, okay, how can we live in a world where there's no bridges required? So typically, what you need is like, um, so let me give you an analogy to understand, right? So imagine if you have a Bitcoin wallet. So your Bitcoin wallet has essentially access to like your money or your basically Bitcoin are obviously represented in the ledger on Bitcoin, but your private keys are in your wallet, which is not on blockchain, of course, right? I mean, it's your private key; it sits in your wallet, Xverse or what have you. And then what you do is you use your private key to then create signatures and say, okay, Tahir wants to move his Bitcoin over to Lomesh, right? So you ask your wallet to create a transaction and sign it with your digital signature, which is your private key, and say, move it.
Mm.
Um, so what does your wallet do? It has access to your private keys and it creates a signature for you. And then it also needs to know if Tahir has that kind of Bitcoin balance to allow it to actually like move that, right? I mean, if you try to say, I want to move 100 Bitcoins, but you only have 10, then obviously that's not going to work.
Yeah.
So we have taken this kind of construct and said, okay, can we just create a model in which ICP can act as your wallet? Um, ICP smart contracts have that ability where they can act as on your user behalf as a wallet, which can manage the Bitcoin or other assets for you. So which means that each of the each of our nodes, like in a particular subnet, so let's say a Bitcoin subnet, they each hold a very small share of your private key. It's never like nobody has access to it at one time, so it holds a very small fraction of the key, and then it uses those fractions to create these transactions or signatures on your behalf. So imagine there are 40 different nodes distributed globally. They each have a small fraction, and then a threshold number of them, say imagine 20 of them would need to come together and say, I want to create this transaction to move this Bitcoin from place A to wallet A to wallet B, or uh, basically address A to address B, and I'm going to use these split nodes to create that. And that's what we have done. So we have done that for Bitcoin, Ethereum. This ability to sign for is for, I would say we can do it for 90% of top 100 chains already.
And you guys were founded in 2021, 2020.
2021 is when we launched the mainnet.
Yeah.
The project had been in development since I think our founder Dominic, he started conceptualizing 2014. 2016 is when we actually started working, and it was in 5 years under development before we launched the mainnet in 2021. So lots of smart cryptographers, researchers have been spending years kind of building these kind of crypto primitives.
Practically a decade from Genesis. What is the most difficult thing that you guys have had to overcome in all of this?
So I think this is again like very complex cryptography, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's maths, right? So in order for us to, so what we are saying is like we are talking about a chain that can not only do this for your token ledgers, but can you build this so that your entire software stack can be
Mm.
completely on chain? Right? So, which means how do you store data? How do you like take care of user messages, transactions per second? We are basically in since we existed, we have done 4 billion blocks. Just to give you an example, one of our smart contracts, just one of our smart contracts, can hold the entire UTXO set of Bitcoin. So it basically has all of the transactions of the Bitcoin in a single smart contract. And today we have almost 800,000 smart contracts. So it's like a very different kind of a machine that we built. And again, like the challenge is like how do you explain it to people that, oh, this blockchain is not like a run of the mill like ones that you see today. Everyone says these applications are built on chain, but obviously that's not possible. And so this is really one of our key aspects. How do you explain this entire new dimension, new architecture of how blockchain has been used to people. So that's where we are.
Especially when you take it away from just being a token on a blockchain or that kind of value add. So what is the pitch actually? Let's say your ideal kind, or if you want to pitch ICP to a project or to someone, what is the quick pitch? Let's call it the elevator pitch.
Yeah. So if you think about what the promise of blockchain is, right? Bitcoin was about, can you create a simple ledger which is secured by like cryptography, basically, like, and today we value that like it's what, more than $2 trillion, because the security that's offered by the chain itself is so much. Then Ethereum came and said, okay, I'm going to basically use the same construct, this distributed ledger, and I'm going to let you build these mini apps that can let you move, create additional tokens and move it around. And Ethereum is valued whatever, billions of dollars. And then everyone else after that came and basically had the same story. How can we help you create more tokens which can be run on chain? Imagine if we can do this for the entire like software, how software is built on in the world. So we're talking about creating a completely well computer which not only secures simple tokens. Tokens are very valuable, don't get me wrong, but it's what if it can completely secure the entire software that you build? So the entirety of humanity's software can it live on chain? That's our vision. That's our vision, and mission, and that's where we are essentially headed towards fully on-chain
The,
applications.
that's a big vision. What current partnerships and collaborations do you guys have to help bring that vision to fruition?
So one of our bigger things is like we need key partners such as like people who are using the protocol to create very interesting. So on the business side, we have done partnership with the United Nations. They are developing a credentials program with the government of Cambodia. We have very strong like network of hubs in different parts of the world. So we have about 37 hubs, which are like local entrepreneurs in each region. They're trying to. So, for example, we spoke about your friend in South Africa that funds this hub for us. So that's the kind of things we have in 37 different countries, and through that, we essentially partner with different entrepreneurs, like businesses that come and build on top of the protocol.
Okay, that's a good let's say expansion route, and I think you guys definitely do have a very valuable project that you're building out. Anything on how anyone can get in touch with you guys and what the next steps would be for them if anyone listens to this and is interested?
Yeah, so the website is Internet Computer. So internetcomputer.org. We are also on X. It's at the rate Definity, DFINITY. So decentralized infinity, Definity. And then you can get in touch with me. I'm also on Twitter under the handle Lomesh Dutta. So a real pleasure being here.
Cool. And just a last one, because we always end off on something, let's say bull market or bear market, or depending where we are related. Trump just won the elections and Bitcoin, I think, just hit what, 75K, 79K? What?
Yeah,
Which your
I said
question?
almost 82 earlier this morning. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I think it just fell below the 80 mark and then it went again above. What do you think is going to happen? We are now in what, 11th November 2024. Where do you think
I
everything goes?
I think if you think about like historically, I mean, in the last several months, what has been happening is like Bitcoin is very correlated with like with the rest of the crypto market. I hope it starts to break and people start to realize that there's a lot more to crypto than just being a digital gold, crypto or Web3 than just being a digital gold. But yeah, just to answer your question, I think we were range bound between 55 and 70 on the Bitcoin side of things
Mm.
for a long time. I think this market is operating like very differently in the sense that back in the day, people would just like spike up and then it will come all tanking. I think this is going to be a lot more sustainable, and I believe we will see pretty healthy bull run this time around.
Okay, I'm excited. Next time we chat, we'll look back to this moment and see what the market has done. Ramesh, thank you so much for coming on the channel. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Tahir, it's an absolute pleasure, and thank you so much.